You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Monday, March 10th. In 2025, that means it is the start of the NFL legal tampering period. Twitter was down earlier. StreamYard was giving us issues just right now as I was trying to go live as well. They said traffic is high. I'm like, I bet it is because everyone is trying to go live right now. Everyone is trying to talk NFL, and you can imagine why there's so much going on. And joining me as always on a Monday to discuss Weston P. Smith. Weston, how you doing today, man? You keeping up with everything going on?
Actually, this morning was like kind of a relief with Twitter down. I know I texted you in panic, like hoping I wasn't the only one, but I was like, I guess I got to do it the old-fashioned way and turn on the television and have the news broken to me that way. So it was a jog down memory lane using TV versus social media outlets. But by and large, Jesus, even my mic's giving me problems today. It's just... the NFL is breaking things. It is slowly breaking things, but I'm good. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it indeed. So I guess a lot of people are upset about the 49ers' lack of moves, which almost always happens, though. I feel like we do this every year, and maybe this year the 49ers are going to be a little more conservative than the last couple of years, but let's not be so surprised about what's going on here. The 49ers have a lot more departures than they do additions, all right? If you look at the departures, we have Jalen Moore going to the Chiefs, a massive deal with the Chiefs there. Running back Elijah Mitchell also going to the Chiefs, okay. Talanoa Hufanga, 49ers safety, going to the Broncos. He got a really big deal. Aaron Banks, guard. He's now going to be protecting Jordan Love. Protecting, maybe a strong word. No, it'll be fine. Josh Dobbs, Patriots, right? He's going to be backing up Drake May. Mooney Ward, to the Colts. Big deal for him as well. Very, very happy for him. And look, let me just say this, Weston. I'm not surprised by the list of departures at all for the 49ers players. I mean, these were all guys we were pretty much expecting to move on.
Yeah, I was going to say, we pegged this for, not just us, everybody, that these just weren't names that were going to be brought back for whether it's production, matching the contract, like every year, this first day of or wave of free agency, you see just, middle of the road players getting paid like they're top dollar guys. And we knew that was going to happen with some of these folks. And we just knew that we would never be in the mix. So there's not a single name on this list that I thought would be coming back to the San Francisco 49ers. And there's not a single name on this list that I would want our own team to match the offers that they were given by the other teams in the first place. So I think this is to be expected. Here's the real truth, Steph, is like, I'm probably getting way out ahead of ourselves right now, is, this mandate of younger, cheaper, right? And the players that we were all excited about were like splash name players, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby. Well, guess what? They're staying with their teams, right? So the names that we were trying to get ourselves excited about have been retained, right? They didn't even get to test the market. So the 49ers didn't even get to throw their hat in the ring. Maybe they kicked some tires on a trade package, et cetera, but clearly not enough to excite anybody. So I expected, I got to be honest with you, I didn't expect this craziness because I feel like the legal tampering period actually began on like Saturday night,
if
right?
We're being honest, there is no legal
through Sunday. Yeah,
there's no legal tampering period. Yeah. I like it. They just go straight to free agency, and it begins before you're even allowed to tamper. So it's just a mess.
It really is, and I wonder like if any of these ever fall through because of a physical or something. You know what I mean? Like don't know because they can't even do their due diligence in that regard yet, for the most part. So we'll see if these are, the places that they're all going, but let's just call it what it is. We never expected any of those 6 gentlemen to be back on this football team this year. Just is what it is. So there's There's no surprise. There's no shock. I'm disappointed like everybody else because nothing gets me more excited than a Twitter update and said the 49ers made a move, regardless of what the move is. We just didn't get to see a lot of that today.
All right, well, let's talk about the move that the 49ers did make. They added a tight end, Luke Farrell, formerly of the Jaguars, formerly of out of Ohio State. I believe he was part of the 2021 draft class, if I'm not mistaken. And so the 49ers bring him, hoping that he is going to be the TE2 that sticks for this team. And they've been looking for a really good TE2 for quite some time, but he got a 3-year deal worth up to $20.250 million with $11 million guaranteed. Now, I think the money aspect is what's got people all up in knots here because they don't like the amount that we paid for a TE2. I'll say this, Weston, before you give your 2 cents. I'll just say the initial numbers hardly ever tell us anything. Like, yes, we got the guarantee number. It's good, 11 million guarantee. But aside from that, the deal says up to 20 million, right? For all we know, he'll end up making just a little bit over 11 million that he was guaranteed. We just don't know. I have to imagine, this deal has a lot of incentives built in and, things of that nature. But I'm not ready to call this a bad move by the 49ers. I think, people are maybe jumping the gun there. I also think it's too soon to just praise the team at the same time and just say like this slam dunk TE2, this work out. We just don't know. But yeah, I'm open to this being good.
No, I'm going to call it what it is. When I saw the alert, I reacted the same way probably 98% of you all did. Said, who?
Yeah.
Who? No, that's fair. That's fine, right? Like, I don't avidly follow the Jacksonville Jaguars well enough to know who their tight end 2 or 3 is, right? Like, and I don't think anybody really does. And if they do, like, they're kind of lying to you in my general opinion. But let's look at it from the surface. We knew they weren't going to be splash players. Got it. You're right. You're talking about the guaranteed money. Let's say that's what he earns. It's $11 million over 3 years, just under $4 million a year. That's actually below the league average for tight end 2s. Across the league. So it doesn't look like a bad contract. Listen, you want your players to earn that high number. That means they're performing and hitting their incentives and are exceeding beyond the expectations of the contract. But to me, so what I have read and gathered since this move, because there was not much else to pay attention to for us today, was guy's a blocker, right? He's an inline tight end. You're not going to stretch him out. Okay, good. Because that wasn't really a good portion of this offense last year, like it had been in years past with Charlie Warner, maybe even Ross Dwelly a little bit. What is that? And what does that equate to? George Kittle's got to spend more time on the line. He's got to be that additional lineman. And you're also talking about potentially moving on from Kyle Juszczyk. So you need a hybrid player of sorts. And more often than not, you're not going to know that player. It's just a jack of all trades, a do-it guy, a pure effort guy that's willing to put his nose in there and block. Blocking's an attitude, and that's what he's going to be asked to do a lot of to help free up the passing game, especially in 21 personnel and 2 tight end settings. I'm not praising the team for this. Again, right when I saw it, but if you're reading between the lines a little bit, it makes sense. It's just a little piece that they're trying to solve for. A little piece in a big puzzle, but a piece nonetheless that has been crucial in the success of the offense in years past. Having a solid tight end 2 who can block and quote unquote the Swiss Army knife Kyle Juszczyk doing the things that he does that is just like a little bit more of an athletic tight end, essentially is what he boils down to.
Yeah, I saw people mention the Kyle Juszczyk aspect of all this, and I'm intrigued because it could very well be that the money that he's getting could maybe signal that, hey, not only are you going to be the TE2, but we expect that TE2 in our offense is going to have some added responsibilities here soon.
For sure.
And again, we don't know if the departure of Kyle Juszczyk will happen this year or maybe next, but I think with everything that's being said about this team wanting to get younger, with the rumor that, the 49ers were going to ask Kyle Juszczyk to take a pay cut. It's very well possible. Like I said, TE2 is going to be that much bigger. So, yeah, I'm holding judgment as far as his play goes, because again, I'm not as familiar with Luke Farrell. Although 2 years ago, right? You guys remember Lori Fitzpatrick, who used to join the show for our Friday previews. Big Jags fan, and she knows ball. Like she watches tape and all that. So I did ask her what she thought about Luke Farrell, and what she said was, he's tough, decent run blocker. Not going to here. I'm just putting it up on the screen here. He's tough, decent run blocker. Not going to do a ton on the receiving side, but I love his heart. He always gave it his all. He's good on pulling across the line on outside run plays like BC gap plays. And that just sounds like the 49ers offense, right? Like that sounds like a fit. Everyone is always complaining about George Kittle blocking, which is a bit of over-exaggeration by fans to begin with. But for everyone who complains about that, a move like this alleviates some of George Kittle's blocking duties. And you're not having to depend on him because you have a strong TE2 who can actually block a la, Charlie Warner like they had. And they haven't really been able to find someone like that. I think we can all admit we probably took Charlie Warner for granted a little bit, right? When he was with the Niners. And so if he could be, even just a bit of what he was and an upgrade over Eric Saubert, I'm game,
Yeah. It's funny with Charlie Warner. I mean, I bet 49ers fans now knowing and feeling what the gap that he left in terms of just his blocking ability, like his contract to the Falcons, like feels cheap, right? Like in comparison to this. And again, I think this is just another prudent move in the sense of like, they're just being fiscally responsible. They're just sticking to the script that they've been telling us for a week and a half right now.
They told us.
They told us this was going to happen. And the truth is, like, it usually does happen. They've been active, day one of free agency before. But outside of like Mooney Ward, who's panned out, you know what I mean? Like as a free agent, a splash free agent signing. Christian McCaffrey was a trade in the middle of the season, right? Like Emmanuel Sanders, a trade in the middle of the season. It's just like there hasn't really been like the superstar pan out which, I mean, come on, you saw the size of these contracts. Like I was all for retaining Jalen Moore, but not at that number, right? Aaron Banks, not at that number, but this is what look at the teams they went to outside of like Washington with Elijah Mitchell, right? Desperate teams right now. The Colts want to continue to compete. They know they need to get better on defense, right? It's just, it makes sense that these contracts were handed out, but it makes sense that we stayed out of that as well.
Yeah, there are some crazy overpays, right? And, I'm glad that the 49ers are not involved in the overpays right now, especially for offensive linemen. I mean, I know. Okay, I'll say this. Upset about Drew Dalman. I wanted Drew Dalman to be all right. Yeah. Ryan Kelly got picked up within the last hour as well. Cold center. He's out of the picture. I would have liked at least center to be a priority and, figure out the rest later. I think, the offensive line with just a better center is fine. It's more than fine. But, yeah, aside from all the other positions that are getting crazy amounts of money and some of the departures that we're mentioning here of the 49ers, I'm okay with them, not choosing to pay some of these guys. Again, not a surprise. We figured for quite some time now they were not going to bring some of these guys back. They did bring running back Patrick Taylor Jr. back, so he's going to be back with the team. It's a one-year deal for him. Again, like a small move, doesn't move the needle a whole lot as far as our excitement goes. But I like Patrick Taylor Jr. I think he's a good back, and you need depth. He's going to be good depth at the very least. He's going to be a camp competition. So I like that. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the NFL realm of things just outside of the 49ers. But of course, that also impacts the 49ers. I mean, I want to go through some of the notable signings that we saw throughout the league, Weston, if that's cool with you, and stop me and interject whenever something stands out to you. So Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to go through in order, so like alphabetical order. Arizona Cardinals, they signed edge Josh Sweat, former Eagles player. That seems like a pretty good move for them.
Another big contract, though, right? Big,
40 years, $76.4 million for Josh Sweat. Those are like the title numbers.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a guy who's benefited for having a lot of talent around him too, right? So he gets a lot of one-on-ones and things of that nature. But you saw the numbers, and you just knew that. I would have a hard time imagining that they want to spend big money even on Hendrickson or Crosby or Myles Garrett or any of those guys, let alone somebody like Josh Sweat, who, you would put the tier below those individuals.
Yeah. Hey,
I like the signing though.
What was that?
I like the signing for Arizona.
Yeah,
Jesus, right now is the time to get aggressive in the NFC West.
Hey, no kidding. They said they wanted to improve their defensive line, and that's what they're doing. Yeah. And on the other hand, the Bears wanted to improve their offensive line. They are doing that. Like they had already traded for Jonah Jackson, Joe Thuney, and now they brought in Drew Dahlman. That was 3 years, $42 million for him. So again, spending. This is a team that has the money to spend, is obviously wanting to build this team around, their number one overall pick quarterback. So it makes sense for where the Bears are right now to be aggressive. We've seen the 49ers be aggressive when they've been in similar situations. And they also picked up Grady Jarrett, who was released by the Falcons. That one happened really quickly. Yeah, it was like he was released, and then within some hours, like he's a Bear. So okay, and so Grady Jarrett, defensive tackle, gets 3 years, $43.5 million. So there's moves being made. Couple of other moves. So the Broncos retained DJ Jones. Something that's going to make a lot of 49er fans sad because we would have liked to see a reunion, but happy for DJ Jones. He gets a raise, 3 years, $39 million for him. We already mentioned Hufanga going to the Broncos. So it's going to be a solid defense, as they often do have. So good for them. DJ Reed, former Jets, former Niners corner. He goes to the Lions. Man, I got to say, I love that move for him. I do wish the 49ers would have been in play for DJ Reed, but it makes sense why he was not at the same time. He goes for 3 years, $48 million. So it's a notable move for another team in the conference. And I know it's not listed here, but it is. Aaron Banks going to the Packers, 4 years, $77 million for him. So that's pretty big. One move that I guess that's a move that the Commanders made here. Let me keep going here. Mooney Ward, as we said, to the Colts. Love that for him.
Yeah.
They also got Cam Bynum, so trying to get that secondary looking nice.
Samuel Womack played well for them last year.
They have a pretty deep corner group. Like it's a nice group of guys. So we'll see how Womack kind of fits into that picture. Maybe they release him and maybe the Niners bring him back. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But we'll see. The Raiders. So this is the one that happened over the weekend, right? It was like an hour of just a bunch of random moves that happened, and my phone was blowing up. The Raiders traded for Geno Smith from the Seahawks. There's a bit of a quarterback carousel happening, as it often does, but this one feels like more noticeable than in years past, Weston. Just a lot of shuffling.
Well, yeah, you got Geno leaving the West, Sam Darnold coming back to the West. It just was like lift and replace. And honestly, yes. I don't even know if the teams were thinking that way. I think it was just so much in the media. They're like, maybe we should call Sam Darnold's people. And then before you know it, a deal is done. It was just, that's what it felt like. It literally just felt like that was inevitable and that was going to happen. But I just think as the years go on, you remember like past NFL free agency periods, there'd be like a handful of like splash signings and significantly less trades and people pulling out of contracts. And now it's just like, it almost feels like it's become the NBA. You know, these guys are just like, it's like wild, you know, it's like now it's like must see TV, you know,
nothing's off limits.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like.
No player is like untradeable. I feel like maybe Josh Allen now with that contract, but that being said,
or Myles Garrett,
yeah,
who just got a big deal.
But it was all about the winning.
Instead,
it's about winning.
God, I've not been sharing my screen this whole time. I thought I was sharing.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm a mess. I'm a mess today. There's a lot that happened. Trying to balance it all. But yeah, for the Chargers, Khalil Mack, he gets a 1-year deal, $18 million. You know, the Chargers released Joey Bosa. We'll talk more about him in a bit, but they retained Khalil Mack for that hefty deal. So, it makes sense. And here in the NFC West, Rams signed Davante Adams, 2-year deal, $46 million, big contract for him. But of course, they are releasing, no longer looking for a trade partner. They are going to be releasing Cooper Kupp. Although I think that becomes official Wednesday. They could still probably get a trade for him, but if they're not getting any bites to this point, they're probably not going to happen if I had to guess. So Davante Adams going to be a Ram this year. With Puka, I got to say, that one scares me a little bit, Weston. I don't like that. I mean, I get it. Like, Cooper Kupp was good as well, but I feel like when Puka emerged, Kupp was already on his decline a little bit, at least. So dealing with injuries. Now you have Davante Adams, who, yes, he's on the older side, obviously, but he's still such a great receiver, and he's now going to have a quarterback who actually knows how to throw him the ball. Although Jimmy Garoppolo did also get re-signed, but he's gonna be their backup. Matthew Stafford going to be the starter. Yeah. So
I read somewhere on Twitter that somebody put a comment about like it's going to be in Davante's like contract language that if Jimmy ever has to play, he's not going out on the field. Like he's just not going to deal with Jimmy. I tweeted this yesterday. Wow. Like the Rams just continue to impress me. You'd have a hard time right now convincing me that they are not the favorite to win the NFC next year. I think they have the best quarterback in the NFC. I think they might have the best receiving core in the NFC after this conversation. They have a super ascending defense right now that is insanely young. And now you're adding Poona Ford to that mix to go up against the run. And I think they have the best head coach in the NFC.
Yeah.
And God, I think they're, you know, we all wrote them for a long time about like not having first round picks and doing those things. And they just find new ways to reinvent the wheel. They see something, they go get it. They're aggressive for it. And I mean, they're pushing the chips all in, right? This is like most probably the last year of Matthew Stafford playing there, even though they just worked out that new contract. They'll figure the way out of it. But this is almost eerily similar to what they did when they won the Super Bowl last, right? Got a couple of veterans who can still ball. I mean, Davante can still ball. Do not kid yourself for a single second that this man has fallen. Look what he did last year with no quarterback play. No quarterback play in New York. And it was a poor team. I saw 2 of their games in person last year. And if it wasn't for Davante Adams, that offense wouldn't have moved. I'm just impressed with the Rams and what they continue to do.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of the way, admirer, I guess, of the way they.
We respect what they're doing. We're not fans. We respect.
I'm not fans of them, but I do like the way that they operate their team. And even because we know they went through a retooling as well. That wasn't like a full rebuild because they still had Stafford and they still had some key pieces, but they kind of just did a whole salary dump, not too long ago. It was like two years ago, and they're still in it. It never ceases to amaze me. Some of the moves that they've made to, really stay in it. I do think coaching does have a big thing to do with that. It just, they execute their plans quite flawlessly. I freaking hate it.
Sure do.
Dolphins haven't made any moves, so at least we're not there.
Poverty franchise. They're a poverty franchise.
Poverty franchise. Austin Hooper, who I kind of thought the 49ers would have entertained as an offer had he reached free agency. The Patriots did bring him back 1 year, $5 million. That's a hell of a deal. Like, that's a pretty good price. But they're bargain shopping for Austin Hooper so they can bring in some of these big money deals. They brought in defensive tackle Milton Williams, formerly of the Eagles. That was going to be one of the big splash signings of this free agency period. 4 years, $104 million for Milton Williams in New England. They also got Harold Landry, who I thought maybe the 49ers would entertain as an option as well. He got 3 years, $43.5 million. They also got Dobbs. So they're working. Like they're trying to get this up and running as well. Similar position as the Bears, the Patriots are in, right? You know, got a young quarterback. You got a ton of money to spend. You new coaches. So yeah, they're trying to build this thing.
That's got Mike Vrabel written all over it because let's not forget the last time the Patriots are notorious for being extremely judicial during free agency period, etc., and known for getting rid of their players a year before they implode, and they've always been responsible in that regard. The last time they spent big money, I don't know if I will forget the year, but it was the year they brought over like Jalen Mills and Devon Godchild. Like they spent so much money on day one, and it was like for nothing. This feels like a combination of both. Like that's a big payday for Milton. Like, listen, I know he played, but like there are very few defensive tackles in the league that are worth darn near $30 million a year. The two that I think of right out of the gate don't even play in the NFL anymore. And that would be Aaron Donald and JJ Watt for the way that they play the position. So that's, I think they'll have buyer's remorse on some of those, but I think some of those are like really good fits for what Mike Vrabel's trying to do. So I think they have like a nice little balance for themselves going right now.
Yeah, I think so as well. And yeah, well, as for the 49ers, we'll kind of see what their strategy is. I'm not so sure yet. I know it's hard to say. I figured it was going to be this way again when we were hearing all this talk about, you know, Jed York not wanting to spend as much cash of his own cash. So I figured that was going to cap the possibilities for 49ers big spending. But like, how do you do that? Like, so here's my thing to kind of just not derail, but to take a quick detour. My thing is you can't do it halfway. Like you can't have 1 foot into we're going to contend and go for a Super Bowl while having 1 foot in we need to get younger and we need to retool. Like that's very difficult to do.
Sure.
And I think you need to go all in on one or the other and see how it works out for you. Like we saw the Eagles last season also do some salary dumping. They replenished through the draft. They competed, right? But I don't know if that was their plan. You know, they just were aggressive in the draft and it worked out great for them. You know, we also mentioned the Rams a couple years ago having to do something similar. So yeah, I worry that they might want to do both at the same time, but hopefully it's still early for me to tell, but I hope that's not what they're trying to do.
Well, I'm just going to call this what it is. There's nothing about this roster and what they've done so far that tells me that the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl this year, right? So you're going into the season with this is the first time in 5 years that you've walked into a season, maybe even 6 years that you've walked into the season without Super Bowl expectations to start the season. And now that is very much the case. If they are, let's also not forget that they still have a lot of talent on this team. Last year was like really, really crazy, right? You saw how, go ahead.
Breaking news. Broncos are signing Dre Greenlaw.
Oh, I hate my life.
Sorry. That one was notable enough that, you know, didn't need to stop you there. That sucks, dude. Greenlaw and Huff. Huff I could live with, but Greenlaw, at least he's going to be in Denver. I'll have fun watching him here, but
I was going to say, you're like a quasi Bronco fan now, aren't you? No, I'm just kidding.
I've enjoyed watching DJ Jones, but yeah, no, that's a bummer.
That was that.
Look,
I need to take a breath.
Yeah,
that was the one that I was holding out for.
Yes, I think we all were, right?
Yeah.
I think we all were. We were very hopeful. I think at the same time, we knew this was a very real possibility.
For sure.
Because we knew he was going to have suitors, and we've been hearing about it. And I mean, here it is. There are going to be other teams that we're going to have money. We're talking about all this stuff of, the 49ers. I don't see the 49ers getting into a bidding war with anyone really for anyone.
No.
And so they're going to lose out on guys. And Dre Greenlaw, unfortunately, is going to be one of those guys.
I would say that this is still a good roster, right? This is still a good roster that's going to go out there that I do look. If the quarterback is here and you make an investment in the quarterback, you got to feel good about that. And you got to feel you have above average quarterback play. Like you're going to go places, right? You still have a former offensive player of the year on this team. Like there's still things that will get you excited. But to your point, like when the Rams have done it, the Eagles have done it. I think it's also happy coincidence that like, oh shit, you have 11 picks this year. I think they make all 11, if not more, right? Because it's going to be about like bodies and things of that nature. If you get 4 out of, let's say they make 11, let's just say they make 11 picks and you get 4 that are like contributors this year into that roster, then maybe you plug the holes but that becomes the happy coincidence that you also got younger and cheaper while you were competing. And then something has to happen, right? Something has to happen. I never wish injury upon anybody, but somebody's season needs to get like the team season needs to be derailed the way that the 2024 season was derailed for the 49ers to like have a shot to represent your conference. But we knew that. Like I posted this video on Twitter before, and of course, like it's always going to be overlooked. It's of my youngest son. We're watching free agency together on NFL Network, and I didn't have my phone when he was doing it. But every time they put up somebody with the 49ers being signed, he just go, bye-bye. And I was like, this is like literally like we are waving bye-bye in some capacity to the 2025 season. Anything that happens, like getting into the playoffs should feel like a bonus. And it's hard because you haven't thought like that in 6 years.
It feels like we're saying bye to this whole era, like the team that they built. For sure. In 2017, and on to see if they can build a new contender, right?
Let's call that out. We are saying bye to this era, which for all of the positivity and the competitive football and the excitement and the interest in the individual players, they have caused equally as much heartache and pain in my life, right? Maybe even more lasting pain than the excitement of getting to the mountaintop and then not achieving your goal. So it's okay to be a little like nervous, but excited about like, what's this going to look like go forward? Like how are they going to gel this? Because you never know. The NFL is about lightning in a bottle. Did you ever in your wildest imagination think that I almost called them the Washington Redskins, that the Washington Commanders were going to be competitive in 2024 the way that they were playing in the NFC Championship game? No. That's why it's the ultimate team sport. First-year coach, rookie quarterback, like nothing says that you should be able to accomplish that. So you got to have hope. You got to be exciting. You got to trust a little bit, not blindly, that these guys just know a little bit more about what's in-house than we do. You're on mute in case. Steph, you're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, this one does sting a little bit compared to the others. Man, 3 years, $35 million, more than reasonable when you look at, APY. Of course, we don't know what the guarantees are or anything like that. I have to imagine the 49ers were not going to be signing him to a 3-year, just everything, or offering him a 3-year. Maybe they did. I don't know. But what they couldn't offer is Greenlaw being the LB1. Like that's what he wanted. And
that money I don't think that money actually was off-putting to the point. I mean, that's less than $12 million a year.
That's what I'm saying. I think
for an all-pro football player. I think it was about, and we know this about the 49ers. Like John Lynch has a special relationship with a lot of these players where I think sometimes he'll say, we want what you want. You know what I mean? And if it's not here and we can't make you happy here, like, yeah, we want to compete, but if you want, Dre, we believe in you, and if you want that number 1 shot, let's do it. You saw it in the Debo article, right? Like maybe the writing was on the wall, but they had there's that type of relationship with some of these players that were part of the era in the building. So let's have a look. God, it really hurt. I don't even know if I can finish my statement because it's hard not to want Dre Greenlaw on your football team because he just means so much. He's like the pulse. He's legitimately the heartbeat of that defense.
Yeah, he means a lot to this team, so it is a huge bummer to see him go. But I'm gonna be happy for him, and obviously wishing him the best. A part of me is somewhat happy that I'll at least get to see him closer. I do go to Broncos games every once in a while.
Yeah,
Being
Mile
here
High is a great stadium. You should always go when you get a chance.
well,
I get it. I
sometimes
get
I'm
it.
like, I don't really.
But Steph, there's something to be said about showing up to a football game that you have no rooting interest in, right? Like you get to enjoy it a little bit differently, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess. But to that point, I think I'll enjoy it a little bit more. Like I said, I loved watching DJ Jones, and I'm gonna love watching Huff and Greenlaw cook because I think they're going to. But yeah, I mean, this makes things interesting for the 49ers, of course, in terms of how they're going to replace Dre Greenlaw. You have to replace him, right? And it's not so simple as D Winters. I mean, D Winters, I like what I've seen from him so far. I do have some injury concerns with him. Like he would get banged up quite a bit last season. And you got to bring in someone else, right? You got to draft another linebacker, and we'll see what that is. They drafted Dre Greenlaw. They drafted Fred Warner. So like this team has the experience of drafting linebackers that end up being stars, right? They just know what they're looking for, and so we'll see who that is. But
you brought back the guy that started this under this era, right? From a defense coordinator standpoint. So you got to feel confident there. But you also have to think about it like you can't replace Dre Greenlaw. Yes, you have to replace him, but you actually will fall short of doing that. Maybe like because he brought so much more than just the skill and the talent. I think you could probably find people with similar skill, but just the velocity and the veracity that he played with was intense. But you have to almost treat it like you're healing an ACL, which is like you're actually just strengthening all the muscles around it to support it, right? So that's how you replace Dre Greenlaw is you try to get better at D tackle in front of your linebackers, right? You try to create more pressure on the quarterback. You try to have somebody who can cover the tight ends. There's not going to be a 1-to-1 replacement for Dre Greenlaw, probably not even in this draft that's going to come in and have the impact that or matter the way that he did. It's going to be about building the muscles around what used to be Dre Greenlaw to strengthen the defense.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we still have Fred Warner, right?
Yeah, of course.
That's huge, but
that helps.
It helps. A part of me does feel like this one's gonna hurt, obviously, for Fred, because I think when 2024 season when Greenlaw was not out there's just something missing, like. Yeah. With Fred, not just the entire defense, but with Fred as well. And I hope he could get that energy from somewhere else. I do think Saleh could help with that. He's a big energy guy. They've been missing that from defensive coordinators the last 2 seasons. So someone's got to bring the energy because that's kind of where this defense was built off of, as well as the defensive line, of course. It just needs an identity that's built around energy.
About energy and flying to the football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hats on the ball. That's we have to have a little faith that the mentality that Saleh is going to bring back, and that's what they're going to be looking for from. Maybe they're not looking for the most skilled person to bring back, but just a fiery competitor that's going to go in there and compete. And I think some people would call it bargain shopping, but I think that's where we're at right now to fill the place. And then you just they need home runs in the draft, and that's a lot of pressure to put on for home runs in the draft.
Indeed, need home runs in the draft. Well, luckily on my show on Friday with Wayne, we're doing the 49K draft club. One of the positions that I said I wanted to watch this week, linebacker. It was running back and linebacker, and now there's an even bigger reason to want to watch these linebackers. But again, it's because I kind of figured this is where things were headed. And so, 49ers have to find someone in this draft who, could maybe try to take that role. So who knows? I mean, does linebacker become a bigger priority in this draft? Like all of a sudden, it very well could, right? I mean, there's some nice linebackers early in this draft. Jihad Campbell, I just saw earlier today. He's a safety, Justin Barron, but he's a hybrid safety linebacker. The 49ers love hybrid guys. So that could be interesting. I saw someone mention Jeffrey Bosa from Oregon, Demetrius Knight. So there's some guys out there, just give me some time. All right. I'm mourning this, and I got to get excited about some of these other guys in this class.
Yeah. Listen, there's a lot of good play. I think there's a lot of potential starters in up and down this draft, and we're going to find out, and we're going to find out what the 49ers mentality is in terms of the persona that they're targeting. I'd say the last thing that I have to say about Dre Greenlaw is at least he didn't land in the NFC West, because there was always that.
Yeah, I saw that. Me as well. Rams were thrown out there, and I was like, please no. Please no. Another report here, this coming in from Matt Barrows. The 49ers are bringing back defensive tackle Kevin Givens on a one-year deal. Givens had 3.5 sacks last season. What was that little chuckle? Is this not moving the needle for you?
That's not moving the needle for anybody, but I do like Givens, and I do like that he's been available. He's been around. You know what I mean? Like he understands what they're trying to accomplish, but it just I just feel empty after this Dre news. I really do.
Yeah, I feel it. It's almost a shame that we had to see that live.
That's what we're here for. This is a real reaction. You're getting a genuine reaction from the people who are talking to you, who are blindsided, just like you are when that came across your Twitter or your Bleacher Report or whatever, however you're getting your news.
Whew, man, yeah. Oops, sorry. Yeah, Dre Greenlaw, no longer a Niner. That one definitely does sting. Updated the
I was going to say, better go update that slide.
Oh, no. I didn't want to, but Dre Greenlaw now here at the bottom. New member of the Broncos. Kevin Givens added as well, if that makes you feel any better.
Look at that side. Look at that left side versus that right side. Let's go, baby.
Let's go. But, going back to the moves that the 49ers have made, I think we can expect that these are the kind of moves the 49ers are going to make this time around. Like, they're going to re-sign low-level guys, and as far as free agents go, you can expect the same thing. It's going to be tier 2, I would think mostly tier 3 free agents, to sort of supplement some positions of need. But I think they're going to be aggressive in the draft. Like, they kind of have to at this point, right?
Yeah. And they got to make a lot of picks. They need bodies, right? So they have to weigh the balance of hey, we can't just. Now, the good news is they've already stockpiled picks for next year on top of what would be allotted with some of these moves. I mean, there is a cap, right? 4, 5.
So, 4? Okay, yeah. And Weston's talked about the compensatory picks that the 49ers are undoubtedly going to get. They've lost how many guys here?
Yeah,
7
expect
guys?
them to not sign players that would count against this formula. Like, that's the way that you need to look at it.
Although, you could probably sign 2 guys because, like I said, you have a cap at 4. So if you want to get 4 for next year, you still can. Get a couple
7
moves that cancel
on that list that are 7 of those players on that list are all 7 are eligible for compensatory reimbursement, as I like to call it. Yeah,
and a lot of them got big deals, going to be getting significant playing time on their respective new teams. So, I expect they'll get the maximum of 4 comp picks for 2026. That doesn't make us feel too good about 2025, but we got to look forward to something, right?
So is it 4 capped? Admittedly, I don't know this. Is the being capped at 4, is that only relevant to just compensatory picks received for players.
Yes, for players.
All right, so like if because they seem to every year still have one or two that they receive from somebody getting promoted to a GM or something along those lines. All right, so it's 4 for players, but then they could still net another one. Right? I think they already netted another one.
Yeah, who did?
I thought they netted.
I'm trying to remember.
Or no, maybe.
It wasn't this year because it was possible.
Well, they still have one for Peters left, don't they?
He's not a diversity hire, though.
No, but he was a promotion to a GM, which I think counts.
I don't think it does. I think it's just for the diversity hires.
Let's just debate it all day.
Do a quick do a quick Google.
Chat. This is your time to shine.
Yeah, I know.
You guys don't throw it in. You know what I mean?
Come on. No, I'm pretty sure it's just the diversity hires that are promoted to GM. Yeah, or like get head coaching positions. That's it.
All right, we'll move on. If I find something,
all right. Hey, someone said I'm right, so hey.
Yeah, don't argue with Steph. She's always right. I've learned that.
Ask ChatGPT for Christ's sakes.
No. I'm too old for that. I do not give in to AI.
No. But yeah, no, I'm pretty sure. So as far as I know, they're not getting one for 2026. Again, unless they lose someone next year, which they very well could.
Never know. All right, let's not belabor this point because you'll just stare at me staring at the computer. And
here's a note from Strawberry Reacts in the comments. Brad Graham, friend of the pod, said that Dre told his teammates when they were in Cabo he wasn't coming back. Seems he was never going to return to the 49ers. I think it was just a matter of him knowing his worth and him just knowing like someone was going to give up more than what the 49ers were offering. So while it wasn't a slam dunk thing, like I think that's the confidence he had in himself and what the market for linebackers was. And you also saw Weston, like this weekend, we saw so many linebackers get deals, right? Yep. Most of them stayed with their respective teams, but I do think it signaled that the market for linebackers was strong and that, people were going to be, a team was going to be willing to pay that much for Dre Greenlaw, who arguably the best linebacker, even with the injury, from 2 seasons ago, still the best linebacker free agent that was going to be available. So.
Yeah, there's a risk, right? With Dre as well. We were all aware of it too. It's like, okay, rush back. I felt rushed back from the Achilles, couldn't stay on the field to complete a game, in the 2 games that came back, and it gets a long time to rest. But like, as we get every year you get older, the injuries just seem to linger a little bit longer, take a little bit longer to heal things. So there's risk there too. And I think the 49ers are they're purging. I think they're doing their best to purge themselves of any risk right now that has any high dollar allocation to it.
I mean, I think so too. It's fair. I think that's good, but yeah, it's gonna hurt when you lose some guys, especially a guy like Dre Greenlaw. And that's why when I look towards the draft, you always hear about certain players that, oh, he's such a good player, but he has sub 34-inch arms, or oh, he's a great player, but he has character concerns. Oh, he's a great player, but he only had 1.5 sacks in college. Like 49ers are in a position where I don't think they can really go for the risks. I mean, they just can't right now. You have to have some slam dunks in this draft, and yeah, I think we're gonna see that with the moves that they're gonna be making now. Weston, one player obviously being tossed around as an option for the 49ers, of course, because of the last name, is Joey Bosa and his familiarity, both literally and not figuratively, but literally in more ways than one, to Nick Bosa. Joey Bosa is being discussed as an option for the 49ers, of course. And I do have a slide for this, actually, if you could believe that. Let's see. Hold on. Here we go. So Tim Kawakami a couple days ago did mention on Twitter, he said, "My understanding is that the idea would be to bring Joey Bosa in as a rotation piece, keep Leonard Floyd, rotate Joey in and out. Also, if everybody stays healthy, allows the 49ers to rest Nick some more in a 3 top DE depth chart." So, yeah, I mean, if Joey Bosa, comes to the 49ers as a rotational player, I'm all for that. I think I just could not get behind him, one, making more money than I would be comfortable paying him,
So
and
sure.
two, like, depending on him to be your edge opposite Bosa. Like, you can't. So
No.
him being a rotation guy, that's fine. I think as long, like I was saying, as he kind of understands where he's at in his career and that he's okay with that in order to play with his brother, I think that was the biggest thing. So I'm all for this, especially if they keep Leonard Floyd. I liked what Leonard Floyd did. I think another year in the system with Robert Saleh could be very good for this team. So yeah, I'm okay with that. Diana Rossini, before you say something there, Diana Rossini did say the Dolphins will be interested in Joey Bosa as well.
This from Florida, right? You know what I mean? You never know what will, and if he's in the twilight of his career, there are worse places to be than South Beach. I promise you that. With a pocket full of money. But that being said, I look at this two ways. Yeah, I would have been furious if I woke up this morning during legal tampering period and when Twitter came back to life to see Joey Bosa signed by the 49ers for 5 years, $98 million, $100 million. I would have freaked out, right? But if it's all about the expectation, and the expectation is usually correlated to the cost. So what are we looking at here? What is he willing to forego? There's still a team out there, this is the NFL, that is probably going to be willing to pay him. I mean, you saw Khalil Mack just got retained for $18 million, right? So 15 to 20 is probably the range per annual that teams will label on him. That's too rich for my blood based on what I think we'd get in return. But I am open to this idea of brothers playing together. It's cool. When have you seen that before, right? Like being bookends, and being on the field at the same time. Last time is McCourty brothers that I can recall. Devin and Jason McCourty when they were with the Patriots. Go Rutgers, by the way. Rutgers boys. But that being said, I think you also have to look at it like, look, we can joke all we want that they're not going to be active. At the end of the day, they still have to field a team. And part of this being judicial is not just about cap implications this year. It's about what the cap's going to look like next year and the year beyond, and trying to rid themselves of the dead money, etc. If they are comfortable with where they are at and they have cap left for the year, like, okay, I need a feel good story right now, and the brothers playing together will at least be entertaining and make me feel good. I understand it as long as it's falling under your guise of being younger and more judicial with your spending. You're already waving a flag at being younger by bringing in Joey Bosa. If we get to that, but I need you to be like judicial in terms of like what it's going to cost to bring him in here as well. But I'm not opposed to it because I do think it'd be entertaining. I do think it would be fun, and like I feel like you'll get more from them if you're using them in the right manner, and like a little more juice from both. Like, how cool is it to play with your brother in the National Football League as a dreams that you've had growing up? And we're just like dad, except we're better than dad ever was, and then they get to go play. So I don't know. There's like, after this Dre Greenlaw news, I think I'm up for anything at this point. You know what I mean? Like, let's go.
I know. I realized earlier, like someone was laughing at the additions slide for the tracker here. And it should have just been singular because it's just a singular addition that the 49ers have made in Luke Farrell. So not a plural, but yeah, I mean, okay. The thing with Joey Bosa, again, I'm open to it if it's in the right conditions, rotational piece, you're not depending too much on him, I think too, with less snaps, hopefully he'd be able to stay healthy. And I hope this is different. And it's got to be different, right? Because this is his brother. I hope it's different than the Chase Young thing, because I feel like a lot of the same things we're saying about Joey Bosa joining the 49ers, a lot of the same things we were saying about Chase Young joining the 49ers. And, they're going to be so motivated to play with each other and all these things. And, Nick does his thing, but, does the other side hold up its end of the bargain is the question. And we'll see if this happens. But again, Miami's going to probably be involved in that. Miami has yet to make any moves for free agency as well. So maybe they're just waiting for the right one. Joey Bosa could be an option for them. Of course, that's where their dad played. So, there's some strings that could be pulled there as well, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what other moves the 49ers make. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. Again, I'm expecting some tier 2, tier 3 guys to get signed. There's some guys that would have been on my wish list that have already been signed. Drew Dahlman, Jamie Sherwood as well. The Jets brought him back. DJ Jones, Broncos bringing him back. So a lot of guys that the 49ers have missed out on, but maybe didn't even want.
I don't even think they got the shot. I don't even think they got the shot. Like the Jets are full court pressing for Jeremy and Sherwood, right? Like you are full press. Broncos made a full court press to keep DJ Jones. Like he was a priority for them. They have these priorities. I think they probably picked up the phone and reached out to these people, but like, look, we're going to stick with the home team. We got houses here. Like there's so much more that goes into this decision than just like the money at the end of the day. Can we address one thing that is like bothering me so bad, Steph? And I'll make it real fast, I promise. I am tired of this narrative of that everything that the 49ers are doing is solely around the retention and the extension of Brock Purdy. Can we stop that for a single second? Guys, they could have kept all these players, signed them, and still signed Brock Purdy. It's not a cap issue. Right. And by the way, Brock Purdy becomes significantly cheap in year 1 and year 2 of that extension, the way that they're traditionally handled or however they want to handle it. Paid all up front. Tends to get paid out in the back. It has nothing to do with that. It literally is just, we are tired of paying all these guys, our guys, and getting nothing in return for it, which is kind of like what they got. Like we know what Mooney went through last year. I don't wish that upon anybody. The production on the field dipped, and it wasn't just last year, it was the year before, right? I've been telling you Demo is the best corner on this team. Hufunga, you know how I feel about him. I think that all-pro was a fluke, right? It was about splash plays. It wasn't about consistent play. Banks, like we've all been on them, like guys, they didn't do all of this to gear up for Brock Purdy. They did this because they just want to have a healthy financial sheet that hopefully you can bring in players down the line that match the pay grade, not just paying them because they were our guys and they got that good because of us.
Yeah. And, as has been stated by John Lynch himself, 49ers want to get younger and, that along with the cash spending things. So I think there'll be a greater emphasis, like I said, on the draft. And today, this week, maybe not our day, not our week, right? There are teams who win free agency, and there are teams who win the draft, So hopefully the 49ers win the draft if they're not one of these teams who are going to be aggressive in free agency, right? Yeah. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm going to remain optimistic. There's beauty and there is excitement, I think, in the process. This is the process right now that the 49ers are going through. And yes, obviously it was fun and exciting when the 49ers were at the top of the game and going after guys like crazy and being aggressive and all that. But those days are on hold. So, temper your expectations, adjust accordingly, and, we move. All right. So just remember that. But yeah, appreciate all you guys. I'll probably be doing another show this week. It's a busy free agency week. So probably going to be doing a show on Wednesday. Obviously tomorrow, Tuesday, going to be doing Bully Ball, here on my YouTube channel and on Gold Standard Network. So make sure you guys tune into that. Wednesday might be doing a show depending on the moves that the 49ers make or even don't make. And then Friday, going to be doing my show with Wayne, and we'll be talking about some linebackers in this draft. So make sure you guys tune into that. But also, make sure you guys subscribe to Weston's channel as well. Trying to put on more content. Yeah, Weston?
Yeah, trying. I was a little rusty over the weekend. Went live for the first time in a while by myself. I didn't have you to play off of, but I think we had some fun. Shout out to my guy 49ers Media. I know he was in here. He held me up in that chat the whole time, so it was fantastic. But yeah, Island 49, come tag along. I'll be here every Monday with Steph. I'm sure every once in a while I'll convince her to come on to mine as well, and just so I can just like treat her like she's been such a gracious host. I feel like I have to return that favor and bring her back over on the island, as the cool kids are saying. But
over
yeah,
on the
give it a
island. I like
follow.
that. I like that. That could be your thing, you know.
We don't do Cabo, we do the island over here.
This one not sketchy. It's not like Epstein Island.
No. This is
Island
more
49.
like I'm the Island Boys. It's more that than anything.
All right, yeah.
Cut it. Kill me now.
Cut it. All right. Appreciate all of you. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Again, not just mine, but Weston's as well. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. But for now, have a good rest of your Monday, folks. Peace. Oh, shit. I didn't end the stream.
So they saw me dancing the whole time? I'm still dancing?
No, not the whole time, but I'm going to.
We're still dancing.
Now I'm going to end it, guys. Sorry. Intro out once more.